What's up? It's Stephen A. Williams, president and founder of the creditrepairshop.com. And in today's video, we're going to answer some questions on my live chat. We're going to answer some questions on YouTube. Question number one. Gentleman had his funds garnished out of his bank account. And let me tell you the solutions that you can utilize to be able to get your money back. Some or all of your money back. Depending on the situation, it's always going to be different based off of your specific situation. But the first step is to go to your courthouse, get the documents from the court clerk, and ask them what you need to do to be able to get a hearing, to be able to get back in the court and get some of your or all of your money back. Also ask them about the exemptions. See if you qualify for any of the exemptions. If you don't, then at least at a minimum, most states allow you to be able to get your money, some of your money back, to be able to pay your expenses, that you're just not hung out to dry. If you do have other money for your expenses, then you might want to consider, letting them keep that amount. And then if they're coming back for more, you need to set up a payment arrangement or a settlement offer to deal with that. Another question here, someone on live chat was asking if they were thinking about doing a hardship consideration, and then they were like, well, should I send out a debt validation? Those are two different situations. Debt validation is going to be if you're looking at a debt collector sends you a letter, or you see a debt collection on your account, or maybe even an original creditor is trying to come after you for a debt that you owe, and you are trying to buy more time to kind of see what you're going to do to resolve it with the original creditor. With debt collector who has purchased your debt, or debt collector who is collecting the debt for their client, you have a right to do a debt validation to see how they came up with that amount, make sure all the appropriate paperwork was signed and everything. Just there's a lot of stuff that you want to do, and you should do a debt validation. Now, if you're thinking about a hardship, it's a whole different situation, because now you're talking about where you want to send a hardship consideration to potentially debt collectors or to your original creditors that have charged off your accounts, because you either are financially where you just can't make it and bankruptcy would be the next step, or you have financial and a medical hardship, and you want to present it to them to see if maybe they'll do debt forgiveness, maybe they'll do a portion of debt forgiveness, maybe they will say you don't have to pay your bills for 6 months, they'll just do an all-out deferment on your stuff. Maybe they'll say, well, we'll settle the account for less. If you're looking at doing hardship, that's what hardship is about. Debt validation, you're not doing a debt validation with a hardship, because you're going to ask to validate the debt and ask them to do a hardship on consideration, so you don't end up having to pay the debt. They could be confused when they got those two letters. Here's another one here. We have a YouTube subscriber. Her son they co-signed for their son's student loans upwards of $120,000. Son suspended from college, and bottom line, parent is stuck with responsibility for the loan. Those loans are going to keep ballooning up. I've seen loans that are $120,000 student loans blow up to $200,000 over time. So first, I'm going to talk about what the child should do, or adult child should do, is you need to. I'm not speaking to this person. I mean, just overall, is that you got to stand up. If your parents got you the student loans, if your parents co-signed for a car for you, if your parents co-sign for a credit card for you, if your parents co-sign for a apartment for you, whatever your parent co-signed for, you give them that same respect as they gave you, feeding you, changing your diapers, driving you around so you're able to do stuff and be able to live life. So our parents took care of us, and I think that same respect needs to be made for any parent. When you, I'm talking to the kids now, or the young adults or adults who are still that needed some help from their parent to be able to get something. You can't let your parent go into their older senior years with a debt load that you put on their back. You wouldn't want them to do it to you, and you should not do it to them. So now let me talk to people who might be in this situation, and I have had people in this situation, and I don't recommend it, but I can see how it can happen. I can definitely see how this type of stuff can happen, because us as parents, especially the generation that I'm in, is that we do too much for our children. The generation that I grew up in, I'm 55 years old, so I would say that we do too much, and it stemmed from, we didn't have so much growing up. We had to do a lot of stuff on our own, and now people got cell phones, access to all types of stuff. We take our kids around to everything. In a way, it's made a bad situation, because it's made it to where our children don't feel that they can do anything on their own. Some do, some don't. But that they kind of have this mentality of they're always needing their parents' approval and their help. And I mean, you're talking to someone who was homeless. Before I went into the military, at the age of 17, getting ready to be 18, I was actually living in my car. And it wasn't because there was really no place for me to go. It was because I just felt that I had to start doing stuff on my own. And for me to be able to make that decision, and being in the house, I actually was raised by my father, and there were certain responsibilities that he demanded that I take on, period. And that meant that if I had to get out of the house and start making my life, that was what I was going to have to do. And the same with my wife. My wife moved out of her house at the age of 17, and I moved out at the age of 17, not into the best environment, but it was a different time, and I understand that. But what it did do, I think one of the things that happened from those types of experiences is that we wanted to try to help our children to not go through things, and we thought that they would appreciate it better, because it's like you're giving them a head start. Like you didn't have that you were start going from step one on the ladder of success. And then we as parents, we either started businesses, and our children started in the middle. Some of our children started at the top, where they don't even, all they had to do is, you would think that they would just come in and just want to continue on with what you built, but it's not that way. And it's not that way, number one, because it's our fault as parents for thinking that that's the way that it should have went. But that fault is only coming from hindsight, because when we're doing it, it's going with everything to make sure that our children are going to have a leg up, that we didn't have, that we were thinking that they're going to appreciate it the way that we would appreciate it. And then on the other side, I see the younger adult side is that they really do want to do things for themselves, and because of the way that we raised them and the things that we thought we were protecting them from, instead of letting them burn their hand on the stove the one time, or maybe go around the merry-go-round too fast and fall off and hurt yourself or break your arm or fall out of the tree, or or start a business and fail and lose money and have to regroup yourself, to like, we didn't let them fall down enough. And I think that what happened with me growing up, when my father and I had our clash, is that I was able to fall down all the way, and I had to pull myself up. And the first branch that I grabbed was the branch of the U.S. Army. And the U.S. Army took me in, got me to thinking in a way that I could do some things that I didn't think that I could do before, by, number one, pushing my mind past a certain pain point, so to speak, which is in thought process, because I had to think about who I was protecting as the people next to me, and also think about myself at the same time. That's a lot when you're sitting there with a weapon, when you're sitting there throwing hand grenades. It's a lot. And then just with the discipline in its own, and then with just the having to get along with people and see all these different personalities. That's what the military gave me, and that stuff is used in society. You may not be able to use it the same way. That's why some soldiers have problems coming back into regular life. But so to get back on what this individual needs to do about those student loans, number one, you got to look at to see if any programs were available, if for parents that co-sign. I know that it might be limited, depending on the school that they go to. There could be certain things that could potentially get some of the debt forgiven. Maybe a certain amount of days had to be attended. Look at the contract. This would be one of the times where you might want to look at the full school contract and see if anything in there, any technicality that could be utilized to either cut or have the student loan totally wiped out. I mean, this is where you have to start digging. Like these solutions here, when I hear these types of situations, that I start to think that it's going to be a special solution for you that maybe is not going to exist for someone else. And it could be within the paperwork. It could be within the way that the school handled certain situations. You got to look at everything. In worst case scenario, you're going to be on the hook and going to have to figure out some sort of payment plan on that. And you're going to have to contact the Department of Education and see what type of payment plan you'll be able to pay on it. It'll just be paying on it until. I mean, I hate to say that, but it'll just be paying on it until. And when if a debt, also they noted that the debt was sold to debt collectors. If it's a federal student loan, debt collectors are hired to collect on the debt, and servicers are hired to service the debt. But the debt is still going to be a federally backed loan, which is going to never have a statute of limitations. It could be forgiven, but you see that those forgiveness plans are usually for public service workers, someone that's with government, or teachers, and they have been paying payments for a number of years. Like the ones that are just forgiven now, you hear the big story, and it's not bad. So, because some people get mad when they talk about student loans getting forgiven. Well, those people, no student loans are forgiven like flat out. There might be some that might have a technical reason behind it, but most of those student loans are forgiven because those individuals have paid on those for a long period of time. The last group had to have paid for 10 years. All right, another question that was on within YouTube was about the statute of limitations on a debt. So the individual said that the debt, I think, was in 2013, and they looked at their statute of limitations. It was an 8-year statute of limitations for debt in their state. And also pay attention, because the statute of limitations on credit card debt can be a lot lower in your state. It could be a lot. In my state, we have a 6-year on contract, but a 4-year on credit card debt. So this is what you got to pay attention to, because the misconception is your creditor has the debt, there's a statute of limitations. They sell it to a debt collector, the statute of limitations starts over. Sell it to another debt collector, statute of limitations start over. No. The only way the statute of limitations would start over is if you make a new contract. It goes from the last payment on that debt. It doesn't matter if it was sold. If it's sold to a debt collector, it still goes off of the last payment of that debt. So if they sell it to a debt collector and it passes the statute of limitations, you are not legally responsible for it, and they cannot take you to court. They cannot sue you over that. They can call you and say, well, you have a moral obligation to pay this debt. They can do that. And when they call you, they have to tell you that the debt is past time barred. That's what they're going to say, time barred. They're not going to say statute of limitations, because then that's going to perk up your ears, and you're going to be like, well, statute of limitations. I remember Steve said, if a debt is past legal statute of limitations to collect, I don't have to pay it. So they're going to say time barred debt on that statute of limitations. So we got another question here about debt. Debt. Everybody has debt. A lot of debt out there. It was another statute. Well, here was another statute of limitations question. It says an old debt that was time barred, no longer shown on the credit reports. At the same time, it is showing disposed. And downloaded a letter. They could download our letter. But if it's not shown on the credit reports, that's usually because, unless you did something to get it off of there, usually because it's past the legal statute of limitations to be on there, or you did something to get it off of there. If the debt is a time-barred debt that is no longer showing on your credit reports, the case is showing disposed. Okay, so it looks like this individual might be getting sued for a debt that's past legal statute of limitations to collect. Now, I just mentioned that they cannot do that, but there are debt collectors, for some reason, some odd reason, that feel that they can go ahead and try to sue someone over a debt that is past the legal statute of limitations to collect. And so again, while I'm looking up some more of the YouTube questions, debt collection companies or original creditors cannot sue you for a debt that is past the legal statute of limitations to collect. That is the law. So we have someone here that's saying that they are getting garnished on YouTube. And so if you're being garnished, first thing you need to do is you need to look at your state laws to see if they're garnishing the right amount, or if you qualify to be garnished. In my state of Wisconsin, you cannot be garnished if you meet what's called a poverty guideline. Even though you may not be in poverty, depending on your dependents and depending on your income, you may not qualify to be garnished. Also, there's certain income that cannot be garnished, like child support, retirement income, if you're on SSI or disabled income, and veterans benefits. There's certain ones. There's federal exemptions, and there's also state exemptions. Not to say that you shouldn't try to work out something, because you don't want to have this hanging over your head, but this is something that you can do to see if it could get stopped, and you can maybe work out a plan that could be better for you. Now, if it cannot be stopped because you make enough money to be garnished, then what you can do is contact the creditor or the plaintiff attorney and let them know, can you rearrange a different amount, either moving forward or for a limited period of time, so you can adjust, do your monthly expenses. And you might be saying, well, why would they do that if they're already getting the money? Because if you end up not being able to pay because of other reasons or filing bankruptcy, then they're going to get no more money. So trust me, they have payments coming in from thousands of people, and their main goal is to get payments or to get the money. That's their main goal. I know debt collectors can their job is to get you in an uproar. Their job is to get you emotional. Their job is to make you pay. But their job also is to try to come to a resolution, and to have that resolution be able to stick. And if you're just struggling, if they're taking 25% of your wages, and it looks like you're going to end up going into bankruptcy or just maybe quit your job. I know with my other company that I own, I've had people that just quit. Like, I'm just quitting my job. I had people on YouTube say they quit their job. They were getting garnished and they quit their job, went to another job, and they were like, well, they're going to find me. And I'm like, yeah, they're going to find you. But this is the stuff that people will do. What about rather than quitting, if you don't want to quit that job, is just contact that creditor or attorney and just say, can we arrange a payment that I'll be able to stick to, because this is just hurting me financially. Someone put on here that people, pay your bills. It was one of the shorts that I put that you got to watch out with debt collectors. Someone said that, pay your debts and stop being a leech on society. I understand that thinking. They probably won't even expect the response that I'm about to give right now. But I don't believe anyone that is watching this video right now that is having trouble with their credit and debt wanted to have trouble with their credit and debt. And I believe that they wanted to pay. I believe that every one of you that are watching this video wanted to pay. And you want to know how I know that? I know that as a fact. Because I could see. So there's always going to be two sides of the story. The person who's in debt, financial trouble side of the story, and the creditor who wants their money. And what I have been able to do with the thousands of clients that have worked with the credit repair shop is look at their credit reports, and I see people who were paying creditors payment after payment after payment after payment for years, not leeching on society, working a job, getting credit because we live in a credit society. That's what helps appliance companies and car companies and payday loans and banks and all of these places that use credit. That's what helps our whole society work. It's just that people are not taught financial education, how to handle money, how to budget money. As a matter of fact, these things were taken out of our school. Out of school. When I was in school, I had a class on balancing a checkbook. I had to pretend balance on a checkbook, like write checks, everything. Now, I know we live in a different society where we've got cards and all of that, but still, balancing your account is like rule number one to being able to stay out of financial trouble. So I don't think that people are being leeches on society. I think that people have just made bad financial decisions, and those bad financial decisions come from not understanding how to handle money. It comes from wanting to have things that we didn't have when we were younger. It comes from wanting to not just be like you're just working to pay stuff, that you're working to have stuff. That's where it comes from. But I think that everybody here is trying not to be a leech. They're trying to work out stuff. Companies get into trouble. File Chapter 11, file bankruptcy left and right. Left and right. We have a president that has filed bankruptcy, former president filed bankruptcy 6 times with businesses. So they would be like, not personal bankruptcy. Well, where do you get your money from? From the businesses. File business bankruptcy 6 times. So would people call that a leech? Some people might call it a leech. That's people's opinions. All right, we have Another YouTube question. Someone from Texas disclosing. Question was, if this happens in Texas, can you avoid disclosing your employer when you appear because wage garnishments are illegal? The only purpose of a bill collector in Texas knowing who your employer would be to harass you to get you fired from your job. Well, they can't do that, and that would be trouble. But let me tell you the reason why they want to know your job. This is the real reason behind it. Is that they want to they look when they're going to garnish somebody or try to go after a bank account. In Texas, they can go after your bank account. And so let me tell you how they put all of this stuff together. First, they want to look at your credit reports. You paying some credit cards, paying a house note or rent, paying maybe a student loan, whatever. They're looking at everything that you're paying. So now that data, that's like data point number one. The person is paying some debts. That means that they have a job, they have some income. Next thing they want to do, and the reason why they may want to contact your job, is they want to see what is your pay. How does that job pay? Do they pay weekly? Do they pay bi-weekly or monthly? What type of position could you potentially have there? Because they're going to use that information to base on when they're going to get that writ from the court and go to your bank and have that sitting there. So when your deposit goes in, they want to be there to grab that money first. That's why they're doing that. See, the thought process would be to try to get me fired and do that type of stuff. But it's actually stated when that these things cannot be utilized to get you fired. But that's why when I make my videos, I talk about feeling. I talk about feeling because when you're going to make reactions based on your feeling, and when a debt collector says they want to know your job, what is the first feeling that comes out from you is that they could put your job in jeopardy. That's the feeling. But if we look behind it, like we say, okay, they could potentially with the job, but what could be the other things that they could want to know, the reasons why they would want to know that? And that's the true intentions of it. That's how you can not be emotional and then still have your ability to have that thought process. And when you have that ability to have that thought process with putting your emotions to the side, you start to see they're trying to get my information so they can know when I'm making my payments. And what payments, like if they say you got a house, credit cards, cars, all that stuff, and you're paying out maybe $3,000-$4,000 a month in payments, you better bet that their feeling is that you got money. So that's the real reason behind it. But a lot of people will avoid that letter, avoid talking to them and all of that stuff, because that's the emotional trigger, is putting my job in jeopardy, which is a valid trick. That's valid. That's valid. So don't get me wrong, that's valid. But you always got to look at everything that goes with it. Look at the other reasons that could potentially be the reason why. That's why if you don't even want to go through the brain power to even start thinking that way, all you have to do is just call them up and talk to them then. And just say, what do we need to do to resolve this? How can we work on this? If you know that they already got a garnishment, because this is what I'm taking for this, they already got a garnishment. All right. Let's see here. We had another. Oh, okay. Here. Arrested because of the debt. Some people still taking the wrong information or taking it wrong on the way that I said it. So I'm going to make that clear. There is no debtor's prison in the United States. You cannot be arrested because of the debt, but you can be brought into court in a way, this is like a warning signal for this individual. This is like a warning signal. The number one warning signal that debt collectors will give you, that you could potentially have a contempt of court attachment put on your body, which means that you could be arrested, to have to come into court to attest to the debt, which is to do a financial disclosure about your income, about your expenses and everything to that debt collector. Number one way is when they send you something like this that they just said they want to know about your employer. I bet when you talk to them on the phone, they're going to give you a sheet, and on that sheet is going to ask you about your financial situation. So, no, you cannot be arrested because of your debt. No, absolutely not. But you can be arrested for contempt of court for not answering to a debt collector. And the debt collector gets that contempt of court. The court don't just throw it to contempt of court. Why is the debt collector getting it to contempt of court? They're not getting it because they just want to have you arrested. They're getting it because you're not answering to them for a debt that you owe. So if you get arrested for contempt of court and you go into court and you're answering about the debt that you owe a debt collector, what would you think the reason why you got arrested was for? And you do not have to take my word for it. Go to the ACLU's website and type in, or go on Google and type in arrested, ACLU arrested because of debt. And you will see that people have gotten arrested for small amounts of debt. As a matter of fact, in the smaller the towns that you live in, that's what I was getting from the story. Small rural towns, this is like, what is that saying? Buck wild. Like, they had someone on there that was talking about a debt that was like a couple of $100 or $300. And they also have a map showing the states that it has happened. There's states, it could happen in every state, but there's states that just a judge either was not willing to sign off on it, or it just hasn't been requested in that area. But it's a lot of states. You should take a look at that. Let's talk a little bit about debt settlement. We got a lot of questions on that. I just made a video yesterday or the day before about debt settlement. These debt settlement companies, you got to know what you're getting into when you're dealing with these debt settlement companies. Debt settlement companies, what the name of the game for them is that you say you have your debts charged off. That's the way that I look at it. But they tell people to not pay their accounts. I never feel comfortable doing that. But if you've made the decision to where you just couldn't pay, your accounts are charged off, and they usually say, well, you got to have $10,000 or more in debt. The reason why they have that, because you might be saying, well, why, if I got $5,000 and you're helping people with $10,000, they're worse off than me, so you should be able to help me because I got a lower amount. Let me tell you the reason why they won't help you is because they need your payment to have been a certain amount, because it won't make sense to you to sign up for it. So let's just say, for instance, you were paying $2,000 a month on credit card debt. You stopped paying, and now they say, pay us $500 and pay us $1,000, and we're going to consolidate. Now, when they say consolidate, they're not consolidating and paying off your debt, and you're paying them a payment of $1,000, which would have saved you $1,000 a month. No, they're consolidating the debts under them as a company to let your $1,000 that you're paying them every month build up, and then they're going to approach your creditors to do settlements. And every time they do a settlement, there's going to be a 20 to 25% fee on top of the settlement. So if they settle it for $2,000, there's and the account was $5,000, they're going to add an additional 20 to 25% on the gross, not on the settlement, on the gross. So say for 50, they're going to settle it for 50 cents on the dollar. That's $2,500 on 5,000 plus 20% is how that works. If you don't have the money to settle, they're going to say you either have to take a loan from this company that they have, which I don't agree with you ever doing something like that, but that's what they do. And some people may take it because if you could do it and settle it and it's done and over with and they can't take you to court and you just hurry up and pay that little loan back for their 25% fee, fine, because you're saving money, period, because you didn't have to pay the full 5,000 back. Any amount of money that you save is going to help you in the overall picture of the situation. But that's how they do it. Be careful with the words that they use. They are not consolidating the loan. They are not taking your debt, putting a loan on top of it, and you're paying them 50 cents on the dollar for it. They would go out of business doing that. The money goes into escrow. If for some reason you want to get out of their program, they are required by law to give you all of that money back unless they've settled accounts. Once they settle an account, it's really nothing that you can do to turn back other than withdraw from the program. You can get reserve money back if you do have reserve money, though. Other things that you can be sued. You can be sued when you're in those programs. Some people will say, well, I'm in the program or the payment program. I have a contract. You have a contract with the debt settlement company. You don't have a contract with your creditors or debt collectors or whoever they're trying to settle the debt with. You do not have a contract with them. They can decide to take you to court. And so you have to be prepared. And those companies usually tell you up front that if you end up getting taken to court, that there's, they're going to take that debt out of the program, and maybe they'll try to do a settlement with them quicker to stop it. I would hope that they would offer something like that. And any of the debts that, if they do take you to court, you will have an opportunity to do a court response. Some of the times, if it's purchased by a debt collector, you can respond to them, and you may end up winning that case. All right. Well, I've went a pretty long time here on the video. If you need help with your credit, please visit us at thecreditrepairshop.com. Watch video What Makes Us Different, so you can see my 8-point validation process, my 2-phase settlement process. If you need your credit reports and scores, go to the website your3scores.com to grab your TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian credit reports and all 3 scores. If you have debt collectors coming after you, grab my 3-pack of letters: statute of limitations, debt validation, and cease and desist collection activities letter. I do ask for a donation on those, but those letters can literally save you time, money, frustration. That's what it's all about. If you can get ahead on it with these debt collectors, a lot of good things can happen, and potentially either wipe away the debt or get a good settlement on the debt. If you have trouble with court cases, we always do a free review, and we will see what information we can get to you to help you. Thank you for your time. This is Stephen A. Williams, president and founder of thecreditrepairshop.com. Make sure you like this video, share, comment in the comment section.